Hi guys, welcome to the rundown. My name is Mikhala Barasa.
And I'm Ndanu Nzyuko.
And today we're here to talk to you about ESG. So the rundown is a podcast and a channel that talks about legal and regulatory issues. We talk a bit about life issues, economic issues, and we'll put some spice. There are some episodes that are coming with a little bit of spice. So keep it here. We hope you've already subscribed. But today we are talking about the big elephant in many boardrooms called ESG. Ndanu, what is ESG?
So ESG, simply the acronym ESG means environmental, social, and governance. So ESG is basically a matrix that is used to measure whether companies are actually implementing the sustainability goals that the different regulatory bodies and the different governments want or are hoping to achieve. Okay. So basically what it means is that if as a company you want to, or you join into the bandwagon of
ESG,
ESG, yeah,
which is actually a fancy word, a fancy acronym. Actually,
a fancy acronym. Yeah, I know. At first I used to confuse it with SDG. Anyway,
SDGs are one of my favorite topics. I mention it in every interview. You're like,
no, yeah, I'm saying when it first came,
okay.
You know, like you're like, okay, so there was SDG, now we have ESG,
and there's ESG, and then there's MDG.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, these acronyms are becoming many. Yeah. So if you join the ESG bandwagon, basically what it means is it's like you're making a promise to your clients, to your investors, basically your stakeholders, the government, that you're going to implement certain controls in your company that are meant to ensure that there's sustainability and social impact.
Okay.
Yes. So I know there's been a lot of focus around environmental. So that's one of the key areas because we've been talking about our planet and what kind of world we want to live for our children, you know. So that's why there's been a lot of talk around the environment, you know, making sure that our operations are green, they are sustainable. Exactly.
We're making a greener future for our children.
For our children, yes.
Is this the one that we talk about where we have issues where companies have to look at their their policies on waste pollution?
Yes.
Maybe like, what's the other one? Waste pollution, maybe you look at your carbon emission.
Carbon emission,
yes. Your carbon footprint. Yeah, okay.
How much paper are you using?
How much paper you're using.
Exactly.
I saw you dinging me.
Yeah.
I saw you dinging me.
Lawyers. Yeah. Paper. Anyway, let us move. So basically, but there are other matrices, things to do with like social. Okay. So what's your social impact as a company? Okay. What impact do you have in terms of the world around you?
Okay.
Are you making a positive impact? And now the good thing about the ESG is that they are measurable matrices. Okay? So if you decide to implement these matrices as a company, you have to measure them. Okay. So like I think in Europe, the matrices are very clear. Like the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK provides for reporting requirements for various companies. Okay, so if you get into that, it also protects investors from something called greenwashing. So greenwashing is where a company pretends to be implementing the ESG goals
policies.
but actually in the real sense, if you come down to look at their operations, there's nothing being done.
Okay.
Yes. So the good thing about ESG and the measurable element about it is that investors won't be fooled into investing in a company that says we are ESG compliant, yet they're not.
Okay. I think the other thing that we maybe need to mention is, I think even in America, the Securities Exchange Commission, is it commission or committee? The SEC was also looking into maybe coming up with some regulations. And this obviously is maybe just in terms of investment to kind of ensure that there are measurable ways to kind of like attain, help the public know what your ESG index is. And of course, there are private companies that carry out those, what is it called? ESG ratings.
Yeah.
So most of the companies kind of like look at themselves against the metrics of the best performing companies like Microsoft and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes. I think one of the things that also came out during the when all these issues to do with the environment started were things to do with carbon credits. Okay, so where you find that there are a lot of companies, especially industries or factories, that produce a lot or emit a lot of pollution into the air. They were looking for ways in which they can contribute, because sometimes we may say, oh, look for a better way of manufacturing your products.
Yeah.
But probably they've tried,
Yes.
and it's not, they can't find
Viable.
Yes. So that's where like the carbon credits come in. Okay. So companies that are emitting a lot of pollution, let's call it pollution, into the air, can now buy carbon credits. So for example, if you have a farm that has like 1,000 trees, you can sell the carbon credits to a company that is emitting.
Quite emissive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So that's basically how I understood how what carbon credits is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good distinction. I like it.
Yeah. I think also when it comes to other companies that are not emitting any gases into the air, we also have a lot of carbon footprint as individuals.
Yes.
Okay. I know people talk about things to do with like the cars
Yes,
we use.
like cycling to work.
Yeah, cycling to work. Okay.
You don't even want to finish the statement.
Please, I shall be getting to work at 11.
Walk to work.
So please, I'd like to get to work on time. So there are a lot of ways in which companies can contribute towards a more sustainable environment. Okay. So things like how much paper do you use? Things like energy, renewable energy. I think like in our country, we have the sun in abundance.
An abundance, yeah.
Yes. So if we are able to get into renewable sources of energy, then it would be good. Also, putting controls in the offices, for example, like motion sensors. So if I'm walking out of a room, there should be a motion sensor automatically to switch off
The lights.
Okay, of course, you can also sensitize your staff because, you've employed adults. They can
They
they
can
switch
understand
off
an
the lights.
instruction or two. I think the other thing that I recently learned, there's a policy that we were doing for an insurance company recently with one of my career mentors. And what came out clearly was their commitment towards ESG. And one of the things that they were committing to is giving their staff green loans. So we did not have like a proper framework for it, but the way their green loans are structured is they pay a lesser interest rate as long as you show that I'm going to use this loan maybe to put up greenhouses, maybe to grow a farm of trees. If you can be able to kind of like show the impact that you will make in the environment with that loan, then you get it at a lower rate. Yes.
That's
And this is in Kenya, by the way.
Wow.
Just so you know.
I love
Yes.
it. Okay, so banks, take note. Please give us
Yeah.
green loans.
But I think also the thing about it, like universally, is how now ESG has been kind of put into products and into like embedded into investment products and even like our insurance products and our everyday products. Maybe you can say a company that offers a wide range of investment options, they can have like a green investment option.
Okay.
And I know like for jurisdictions like America, this green investment options, of course, you pay a bit of a higher fee on them, one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, your clients feel like we are contributing towards the helping the environment. Though again, ESG is one of the controversial touch and go things in the US because again, not all of them are Republicans, not all of them are Democrats, not all of them are liberals. There's a group of them that says, us, we are capitalists and we want to make money.
Oh.
So there's a controversy around that.
Okay, there's something one of my friends mentioned that capitalism and sustainability cannot coexist.
Exactly.
So I found that very interesting because if capitalism and sustainability cannot coexist, and here we are trying to push companies to get onto the bandwagon for sustainability, what then do we do? How do we strike that balance?
But you see, if you look at it from, let me now think about it from the American perspective. They're saying this company, we say we are now going the ESG way, and the CEO releases a statement and they say we are going the ESG way and we are going to have green products and we are going to make you all your assets and whatever, we are going to invest them in a quote-unquote green way. And then, of course, there are those people who will be like, I'm a capitalist. I can't be here. Maybe I might not make money. And then they pull out their funds from it. That now, from the case that I was looking at, gave a ripple effect because there was a bigger number of people who now invested in that company because they felt like by investing in that ESG-related product, they were actually making a contribution towards the environment.
Okay. So I think probably what is needed around ESG is a lot of sensitization on what it is, what's sustainability, why is it important, you know, and why should we jump on the bandwagon of sustainability? Why should we build a better world for
future generations?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So there's the other issue on the social aspect of ESG. And I think before we started the episode, we had been talking about the issues to do with inclusivity. So I think in our last episode, we talked about the employment.
Exactly.
Act, you know, and employment laws. Okay, so how do we put the inclusivity aspect into the organization?
This one I know this one. So some organizations have this, maybe a committee or a section or a department called the Diversity, Equity and Inclusivity Department. So what the DEI department, they call it DEI. I find it too fancy. But what the DEI department does...
To an international organization.
I know. So what the DEI department does is kind of like one, sensitize people on what a sustainable workplace looks like. And they kind of like look into the organization to kind of find out, is every gender properly represented? Is there equality, maybe if it's an international organization in terms of race, maybe religion, maybe are we including people from all sexual orientations? But then again, the DEI thing is very tricky. I think the social part of ESG is actually very tricky in some parts because what matters in Kenya in terms of DEI is not the same matrix that matters in the Arab world. Might not be the same thing that matters in the EU. It might not be the same thing that probably matters even in Tanzania. You don't know. You don't know what their inclusivity laws look like. Here we have 2/3 gender rule.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the same thing in an Arab country? Probably not. Probably having just one woman in your team is enough. So again, the social aspect, I think, of ESG is what can probably bring a tricky situation in terms of implementation.
In terms of implementation, okay. I think that's where now, as organizations, they need to implement a lot more of evidence-based decision-making. Before you roll out a program or a policy within your organization, you need to look at what's the viability of that policy or of that program. And are we actually addressing a need that is existent? Exactly. Because you can be addressing a need
that is non-existent.
Exactly.
And you see, when you look at the social aspects of ESG, you can look at it in terms of just giving people fair labor practices. Like just giving people, making sure people are free from slavery, you know, forced labor, like, you know, things like that do not really have to be, you know, like data protection. These are actually social things that you can use, you can look at in your work environment, and it does not really have to be limited to diversity, inclusivity, and equity.
I think when you've talked about, sorry to digress, about the issue of inclusivity, I've thought about our universities. And it's, for me, I feel like it's very unfortunate that in our universities, we don't have programs where people who are deaf, who are blind,
exactly,
or have any other physical
disability,
are able to join into the programs just like every other student, you know? And I think that's one of the areas that universities can actually work on when it comes to their social impact. Because once they're able to do that, now it will make it easier for employers, because now employers can be able to hire people
based off of credentials from actual universities that did the DEI work in the first.
Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges that sometimes employers have. Okay, they say, oh, we encourage people
persons with disability or what to apply.
Exactly. But they're not even getting the applications.
Yeah, they can't get the application because you want a mason and this is a person with a physical disability that might not be able to do a job.
Or probably it could be an issue that these guys have not, don't have the papers, the qualifications to actually
apply for the job.
Exactly, yeah. And that's an issue that stems now from the education system. Yeah. So if the education system is able to now incorporate the persons living with disabilities into their programs, then now it would make it easier for employers to
incorporate them in the workplace.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
I think that's one of the areas that I've been really thinking about and saying, actually, I think Kenyan universities need to do a little bit more in that area. Okay. So I think we've talked about the environmental bit of it. Social bit of it.
So we go to the governance bit of it.
Yes. So maybe you would like to start us off?
Okay, so maybe from a corporate governance perspective, the governance part of ESG would then look into how maybe a company is constituted, their leadership, their policies, how their board is constituted, how they whether or not they follow these policies. And sometimes it goes as far as looking at how the board is remunerated and how the board is paid, as opposed to probably other companies. Now, the thing about the corporate part of ESG is, to me, it usually looks like it's very high level. It's not, the governance part is very high level. It doesn't look like it's gone down to maybe the like the social and the environmental part. And I think this is why, from a legal standpoint, it might be also another part that might be harder to monitor, because you know these are the decision makers of the company, and the thing about ESG is there should be transparency with it. And if I'm the person that is making the decision, and then you want to come again and tell me, is this your thing ESG compliant, then it leads to what we are calling maybe greenwashing. I think that is one of the challenges that I picked out.
When it comes to the governance bit of it. Okay. I think I haven't really seen a lot when it comes to the governance bit of it as yet. But considering that these are new regulations, probably people are going, in different steps or step by step
towards achieving
the various aspects of the matrices that are required by the framework. Yeah.
I think the thing about also the governance part of it is, when you look at the policies, then you look at what is the policy of the company on financial transparency and how are they actioning it. Maybe that can be one matrix to gauge it on.
Yes.
What is the company's rule on maybe bribery, anti-corruption, and conflict of interest? Do you have policies around this?
Yes.
And how are these policies effected, and how are these policies kind of implemented by the organization?
Operationalization of the policy.
Yes, of the policy. So the governance part is a bit more, like I said, for me it looks like something that's a bit more high level than the other two, because environmental, it's easy. Just one of the things is like telling a person to switch off the light. The second one is maybe like fair labor practices, because it's social, and the impact that it has on the community, that's easy to gauge. But now the corporate part is kind of like an internal lens. Like, even if that we contract another company to come and look at our ESG requirements, it's looking at us like internally, it's looking at our leadership and looking at how we are doing things.
It's not so easy to come and now say that, oh, by the way, your leadership style has a problem.
Exactly.
Or we don't have enough transparency in this company. Because I think that issue of the subjectivity that may lead to such issues, I think that's what the ESG regulations are trying to handle. Okay? Where the regulations are very clear that you need to have 1, 2, 3 policies. You need to have 1, 2, 3 framework in your company. You need to be able to show that there's transparency in your company. So everything needs to be measurable
and documented.
Yes.
And then also the other thing, when you look at things like, let me give an example of a conflict of interest policy. Like me, for example, I say maybe I am married to person XYZ, or I'm in a romantic relationship with them, I have declared conflict of interest. Then you as the person in HR, then do you know what to do with that conflict of interest? If it's not somewhere that requires me to be moved, then what do you do with it? So that kind of implementation probably is what ESG now I know is going to trickle down and ask you, yes, she declared conflict of interest. As an organization, what did you do apart from filing it away? You can tell me, oh, we moved them to another department, we sensitized them on maybe proper judgment, even in situations where you're related to people, we ask them to quit, or we give them a severance package and ask them to leave because this is not as per the company policy. But a lot of the people, like a lot of organizations will receive the conflict of interest policy, look at it, oh, Ndanu is in a relationship with person X, file, put in the cupboard.
Yeah, and nothing is ever done about it after that. Okay. All right, I think that was quite interesting. We will plan for another episode
on ESG.
On ESG, and probably bring in some more experts around sustainability, and also looking at what are the regulations that are likely to come, because in Kenya right now we still don't have any regulations that are around ESG.
When you look at it from a Kenyan perspective, maybe as I try to close turn, I know. From a Kenyan perspective, very recently, I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, this is in the month of January, let me say that, there were the Kenya ESG Awards.
Yeah.
So the Kenya ESG Awards are actually geared towards like identifying companies that are doing well on the ESG index and kind of like giving them rewards. And I think this is a good step towards looking into like regulating the sector. So one of the companies that actually struck my mind was Crown Paints Company Limited. Now, Crown Paints did something that, okay, so the way I understand ESG in terms of implementation towards the environment is twofold. One, I create a new product that is green and eco-friendly. Number two, I adjust my processes to be able to fit into the ESG index and become more environment friendly. So what Crown Paint has done over the years is it's adjusted its manufacturing process to be more eco-conscious and eco-friendly. And they won the Eco-Conscious, I think, Manufacturing and Excellence Award. And that struck me as a company that makes paint, that's a really big award. Yes, because how is it that you're making your paint in an eco-friendly way?
I know.
Yes.
That is so good.
Yes.
Okay. I love it. All right. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to follow us on social media at The Rundown. And also you can follow our individual pages. Yes, at Ndanu Nzyuko.
At Mikhala Barasa.
Yes.
And until we see you next time, bye.